everybody, Sam Denny, aka Halfass Customs. This episode we will talk with Michael Ohlfs. I'm gonna have to have him say his last name, and a special guest. I guess his neighbor or good friend down the street is a model railroader as well. So we're gonna talk to both of them and get to know both of them just a little bit more. So Michael seems to be into the 187 scale vehicles, as well as he's got this awesome looking, from the photos, city that he displays his vehicles on. I want to think that it's probably a model railroad layout, but we're going to get into that here very soon. So stay tuned for Michael and the special guest, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, this is Sam Denny, aka Halfass Customs, and this is Halfass Presents the podcast. In this episode, we got Michael and I just found out Dan. They're pretty good friends, and they both have YouTube channels, which I'll have in the description below. Their links to their channels. Dan, Michael, whoever wants to go first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got in this hobby?
Sure, Mike, and we're coming to you from Colorado, but like yourself, we're both natives of California. So awesome. Santa Monica and then Bay Area.
Burbank.
I'm from the IE, so there you go.
Yeah.
Inland Empire.
Inland Empire, absolutely. So anyway, I got started in 1972 with model railroading. It was Christmas 1972. Dad purchased the first set, and it was in California, but it was Markland from a Kitty World. So I've always had this affinity for European trains. So I have both. I've always had both, but I do have a European as well as an American setup. And I built the layout in the attic, and then kind of left it when I went off really to the sophomore year of high school. And it wasn't until 1992, after marriage, and I got back in the hobby and started making kits, started making buildings, and not have a layout, but just making stuff. And when we got the basement here in 1996, I built my first layout in the basement here. Rebuilt it when I finished the basement in 2005. So what you see here is a 2005 one, but I belonged to a club in Parker that had a very large layout, and where we live, about 10 minutes away. And unfortunately, it started in '88, but in 2017, it disbanded. We sold the building and tore up the layout, and the gentleman purchased part of it. I do have a lot of videos and still photography of that layout. It was a nice layout, but that's gone and defunct. And as you were alluding to earlier, the average age of that club was probably around 67. So
that's the average age of most model railroading clubs.
So, and unfortunately, we lost quite a few. And then, as things happen, it just disbanded. So yeah, I used to purchase a lot of trains. I'd run my trains at the club. I'd test them here, but I'd run them over there. So
that's cool.
And that's it. So a lot of time doing this.
72. That's amazing. That was before I was even born. I mean, I'm 42, so that tells you I was born in 79. So man, that's a long time to be in this hobby.
It is, and seen a lot of changes in the hobby too, as well, over the years, with technology, digital, DCC, everything that's happened. Not to mention the quality and the detail of the modeling that's happened since those years. And what you can do today is just absolutely stunning. So I'm also a car nut. Cars in my life. I just love cars, all kinds of cars. So that really is how I got into 164. I started collecting 164 in 1996 with Johnny Lightning. Although I had Matchbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have Matchbox.
Yeah, right.
But really, I was at a fair somewhere, and I saw this table set up, and this guy had Johnny Laugh. Wow, these are really cool. So I got into 164, and then of course Greenlight, Auto World, M2, all the others started coming on, and it just thousands and thousands and thousands of cars. All the cars I always wanted, and so it was just recently in this last year that I decided, hey, I want to merge 164 with 187, use all of my diorama displays that I've made over the years and showcase some of the 164 material that's out there. Because as we know, in 187 scale, there's lots and lots of buildings and scenery, and you could make, as Rod Stewart did, you can make an entire city. Yeah. And but when it comes to actual vehicles, unless you're doing the 1950s, there's a limited number of vehicles in 187. So it's kind of a mix of my two worlds: loving trains, loving cars.
Right.
Or anything that
well,
moves,
on top of that, if you can get a 187 scale car modernized, or however you see it in your head, you want it. I mean, a cheap 187 car would be $5 to $10 easy, just for one. And that may not even have wheels that move, compared to a $1 Matchbox or Hot Wheels that will roll anywhere you push it. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big difference in wanting to have more cheaper cars that you can get plenty of anywhere and everywhere, compared to specific cars that cost a little bit more money.
Yeah. Right. If you're into history, like I want to do the history of the NYPD or the history of the CHP or something like that. In 164, I can get almost, 80% of all the cars ever driven by those two forces or whatever, and create a lot of different scenes and incorporate history or incorporate movies or things like that. There's so much material out there. And if you've been, like me, I've been collecting since '96. So, I've probably got 500 or 600 of these things, so
easy.
There's a lot of stuff I could do with that perspective. And also the diecast stores that I've been to, I guess this new diorama thing with 164 it really is exploding. I noticed all the diecasts are carrying the 187 buildings for guys to make dioramas with. Right. I'm probably posting on at least half a dozen 164 sites right now.
Yeah.
So,
I probably get half of those.
Oh yeah. So it's interesting. Dan, go ahead, Dan. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Are you ready for me, Sam?
Go for it.
So my story is pretty similar to Mike's. We're about the same age, so of course, early 70s. I got a train set, and I didn't have the luxury of being able to set it up permanently. So, it was something I'd play with once in a while and then put away. My grandfather and my dad were into railroad. My grandfather especially, so he built a lot of custom Pullman cars and things like that, kits and railroad cars. So then as a kid I played with it, put it away. Then fast forward to my mid 50s now, and about 4 years ago, 2018, my wife was taking care of her mother, so we had an elderly person in the house, and I ended up in the basement a lot. So I decided I wanted to kind of rebirth my whole model train experience and get into the new thing. And of course, knowing Mike and some other folks who could advise me, I went ahead and purchased a Woodland Scenics Grand Valley layout. And that's a scratch build kit that they give you all the materials. It's a 4x8. So I built a bench and I started building. And I wasn't in any hurry. I just started that, and then sort of 3/4 of the way through it, somebody, I think Mike, suggested I start a YouTube channel. So just for fun, I started filming, little cab ride views with a GoPro through the layout.
Nice.
Scenes. As I started getting the buildings, the cars, the scenery, I'd do little scenes. And then my channel just sort of evolved into showing people how I do things, how I design scenery, or how I lay the roads out, or how I build a building, how I weather train cars, or just anything that has to do with a small railroad layout. And it's been pretty successful. So that's kind of
awesome.
where I'm at. And Mike's got me now starting in doing some dioramas on my layout that I have. So taking some photos and uploading them to the Facebook pages, and just kind of starting out with that. So that's about where
cool,
I'm at.
That's awesome. That's great.
He just lives 2 doors down, by the way.
Right. So,
oh shoot! You need to buy the house in between yours, and then combine all 3 of them.
Well,
Yeah,
our tunnel
grand
between
layout.
the basements is almost complete. We could have a really super train layout.
right. Are you guys close to that that big model? I don't know if it's a train store or if it's a train layout in a store. The one that's on Ken Patterson's What's Neat show every once in a while.
You mean the Greeley Train Museum up in Greeley, Colorado?
Yeah.
Blonde-haired Michelle. Yeah, it's called the Greeley Model Train Museum, and it's in a depot in town of Greeley, which is exactly an hour and a half north of us.
That's not bad.
Well, north of Denver. And it's one of the largest layouts in the United States.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of videos of it. I just didn't know how far you guys were away from that.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half drive straight north to get to that. And not too far from Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's about another half hour up to Cheyenne from there. So,
wow.
But
that's neat.
It's a really neat location. It's too far to become a member of that club. Because it's just too far away. So toyed with that. They did when we had the Parker Club. That museum would allow different clubs to come there and spend the entire night at the facility running their own trains on that land. And that was really cool.
I know in the early 2000s, I just got married, and I liked trains. I wasn't in love with trains, but I liked trains. And I went to this train show, and this N-scale group just caught my eye. And I said, I want to be part of this group. It's small enough. I got a small house. It's perfect. And there was a module group. So you just take it apart and put it, and hook it up at a show. So I was like, I can build a 4x2. That's easy. So I joined that club, and it was the same thing. They would invite our little train club to these big layouts all over the place. And we got to go to the Griffith Park train museum and run our trains on their layout. They had an N-scale layout in there. We went all over the place in Southern California. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
But then I moved and I got out of that club.
Yeah, there's a lot of large layouts in Colorado, and there's a group that goes around every Tuesday night to a different layout and actually runs in basements. And there's at least 3 layouts in Colorado that arguably come very close to that museum in size and complexity.
Way.
Yes.
That's insane.
And one of the best is up in Longmont, Colorado, is John Parker's layout, the BNSF. One of the best layouts in the world in Longmont. Yeah, there's quite a few here that the basements are 2,500 square foot.
Oh
layouts.
My God, that's bigger than half the houses in my neighborhood.
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've often thought about maybe when my kids go to college or they just get married and move out and we don't need this big old house. Because I live in North Carolina and I have this big 2-story house that doesn't have a basement. It's got a crawl space, but it's unfinished. You can't do nothing with it. Right. And I thought, how cool would it be to have a basement like Ken does, like Mike Buddy does, like all these people that have these big, huge layouts, and like the 187 scale person in me, say, I'll have the train against the wall going around and not put that in the forefront and have the whole city scene in the front and let the trains just be this generic piece of junk that's just rolling down the track, and who cares about it? But the cars and the buildings will be the scenery or the eye candy. I thought that would be cool, but I'd have to move out of this big old house, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
That's we have our big train show here in Denver is the first weekend in April,
nice.
down at the stockyards, and Ken usually broadcasts live from that show, but like they do in a lot of these locations, they'll probably have a dozen layouts on a tour that you can sign up and go see.
Yeah, they have that in St. Louis for the RPM meet. They do a train layout tour.
That's exactly what they do in Colorado.
I've only been to Dick Smith's house. I haven't been to any. And Ken Patterson's. There's only two people I've ever been to. I went to Mike Buddy's house, but that's because we're really good friends. But yeah, because I'm not a huge model railroader, I'm more into the cars and the scenery. I don't care how cool your layout is if there's no cars on it.
You're lucky to go to Mike's because he's a private. He doesn't show it very often.
Yeah.
He's a very
if you just
watched
watched the What's Neat episode this morning that was put on by Ken, he literally drills into Mike saying, "We got to know more about your stuff."
Yeah, he's got a nice layout. And he's done it for so long. And I think he realizes that after you've spent a lifetime doing this, you kind of want to show off your labor,
Yeah,
and
that's exactly where he's at.
He's got, and I notice he's on a lot of different Facebook sites and his material, and he's kind of the quintessential car guy in 187.
Yeah,
and
I would say there's two main people. One of them passed away a couple years ago. His name was Chester. And Mike was the other one. There's two main people that really keep, I think, the hobby of 187 scale going in the sense of when people see what they do, they're like, oh my gosh, this is why I love this hobby, because they do such good jobs at making stuff.
Absolutely.
I know when I joined this hobby, Mike Buddy was like the go-to. He's a Chevy guy. I'm a Chevy guy. He was the go-to person for me to get all my information and skills from.
Nice. I think one of the neat things that's happened recently, as far as I can tell, is this idea that you don't have to have a layout. You can create pretty cool stuff with a simple 2x2 or 4x4 module and do a scene and get into the hobby that way. It's not necessarily trains, but you're developing your own particular scene and then taking pictures of it, which is what I like. I just don't have the room for a large layout, so why not make these little scenes, build it, tear it down, do another one, and just keep doing that. And I think that's catching on now, and a lot of people are getting into the hobby just doing the little scenes and things like that.
Yeah, well, the great thing about the 187 scale vehicles club or the vehicles model group is they 2011, 2012 created the Route 187 scale module setup.
Right.
And I built two of them, and I got like two other people to start building them. And when we go to the St. Louis meet or we go up to Amherst, we just set them all up together and they just mesh perfectly. We can all have our separate scenes, but all the diagrams and layout measurements are exactly the same, so they just meet up.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
No, it's really, really cool.
I've got Mike as the mentor, so he's, always, keeping me going and getting me interested in this. I'm going to be branching out into more of this diorama stuff on my layout.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one good, cool thing about modules, and I guess you could do it on a layout too, that you don't have to have the whole module literally a switchable in and out piece. You can, if you build the diorama or the module or your layout right, you put that base foam on top or whatever you put on top, you can cut out a square of where that building would be, and then you can keep that same size square as the base to put all different kind of buildings on top of them. You can just switch them out. You just pull it out and put the new one in.
Exactly.
That's what both of us do. You swap different scenes and buildings out of the layouts and make it different. And the other thing I've been doing for years is you can swap out different eras. If you want to do a 1950s scene,
definitely.
you can use the same buildings, change the cars out, change a few little things. You got a 50s scenes like I do, or I could take that same scene and make it into a current day with modern vehicles and modern people and a few accents, and you can change the era that you're looking at or the scene you're looking at.
Oh, easy. I mean, there's plenty of cities in this whole country that still have downtowns that are all 50s and 40s, 50s and 60s buildings.
Oh yeah.
That line the street. So easily you can be
right around here. I mean,
in the 50s,
buildings
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know.
Yeah.
You go to any small town in America and you got the same buildings you had in 1950s.
Yeah.
Right.
You really on Main Street. On Main Street. So you can recreate Main Street in almost any decade you want, from the 50s, 40s, all the way 30s, 40s, all the way up to that present day, you know, which is, I like to do 70s, sometimes 70s, 80s scene when I grew up. I like to do current stuff, and then I like occasionally go to the 50s. So I'll take the same street scene, completely change it, and do it different.
Now, I did something kind of interesting on my layout. I've got this area where there's this mountainous mountains, and inside is just hollow. It's just styrofoam, and it's a void area. Well, I decided I wanted to utilize that space because, you know, I'm limited on what I had. And here's just the back of this mountain that's, you know, there's nothing in there. So I started creating custom modules to fit in there. And I started with a Halloween module. So I had,
that's cool.
I had I made a little graveyard, you know, with tombstones and all that, and lots of spider webs and dead trees. And then I had my trains going through there real slow with the GoPros and, you know, sound effects and everything else for Halloween. And then of course I did a Christmas one where I took that module out and I made another one with an ice skaters on a pond with, you know, lots of pine trees and snow everywhere. So there's things like that you can do with, you know, just be imaginative with your layouts or, you know, whatever you have, and be creative, and don't be afraid to, you know, dive in and do something. And if you don't like it, you can always change it, you know?
Yeah.
And I've done things like parades. I you know, I'm just on it. One night is, I'm going to do a parade, and I just switch everything out and make a parade scene, or
your Christmas markets,
or your Christmas market, or riots, or whatever. I've got some. I've got riots going on in my town. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do. You don't have to stay the same. You just
no, exactly.
Move some things around.
I mean, just in the in the middle of last year, I think I got this bug in me to take all my movie cars and just do movie mashups, tell a story with it. And so, I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware of what I have, but I have the Ghostbusters firehouse with the Ghostbusters car, all in HO 187 scale. And so I've got this this Playmobil Stay-Puft. So, you know, it's only less than a foot tall, but it sits right next to the firehouse all the time. And then I've got the selling miniatures from Indonesia, Ghostbusters figurines in HO scale. So I created this scene where the Ghostbusters needed help fighting the Stay Puft, and I brought in Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, and then Danny Zuko from Grease just showed up out of nowhere, and we were like, what is he gonna do? He can't fight. Is he gonna dance him, scare him away from dancing or something? As I started making these little stories, and man, they just never stopped. Like That's every couple months, I would just start making a whole new slew of stories. For Christmas, I found Hallmark had a Christmas ornament of Cousin Eddie's RV from Christmas Vacation. It's not 100% HO 187, but it's close enough that if you put a little figurine next to it, he could walk in the door. He'd have to probably squeeze in there, but he could walk in the door. And so I started making a whole entire storyline with that. I said the Griswolds went to go get the tree and they got lost, so they stopped at every famous thing I have on my modules. And I just started telling stories. And then at the end, I had to take this old house I had, and I had to make the Griswold house out of the back. And then I turned it around and make Danny's girlfriend, whatever her name is, from Greece, saying that Greece ended up taking the tree from the Griswolds because it was too big to fit in the house.
Yeah.
So it was I don't know, like 7 different stories, all with one big long storyline. It was cool.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna keep doing it though.
All the different movies where the car is the actual character in the show.
Yes.
So you've got movies and television programs where the car was the actual actor.
Right.
And the beauty of 164 is that they make every single one of these.
Yes. Everyone that you could imagine.
There's a few that they don't get the license to, which is interesting, because Greenlight can't get the license to LAPD. So they can't do Adam 12. They can't do a real LAPD car. They have to do a fake sticker on the car because they don't have the license for it. But for just about everything else, I mean, all these shows and movies that we grew up with, there's now cars for. Classic.
Well, in multiple episodes, I've said, and I'll say it again, you know, the 70s, 80s, and early 90s was the pinnacle for the car being a character in the movie, not just a vehicle that blends in with every other vehicle. And then they stopped, and then Fast and Furious came around and brought that back. And then Transformers tried in the first maybe 1 or 2, and then they fell off, and nothing's been out there since then. Well, Gone in 60 Seconds, the remake, but even the remake doesn't really give you that same thing as the 70s, 80s, 90s movies did.
No, not of that car chase in the original one, or like Vanishing Point, where the car was a central character throughout the entire 2 hours of the movie, is all you saw as a challenger.
The only good thing that we have right this second is the Ghostbusters 3 movie that just came out, because you got the original Ecto to come back as a character for the movie.
Right.
Yeah, but everything else coming out today, nobody cares about the car because they're not focused on the car.
No.
And we're really lacking it.
Even Smokey and the Bandit that car was a central character.
Yes, right.
And
the truck. Yeah, even the truck.
And even if you read Jack Webb, when he made Adam 12, in 69, he actually said, this car is a character in my movie. It's the starring character. You are all supporting this automobile for 7 seasons. That was nothing but an automobile show. Right. You go back and look at it today, and you get a window into Los Angeles in the 60s and 70s. You can see all kinds of great cars that are out there.
Well, just like the TV show Chips. I mean, the show itself may not have been the greatest show, but the bikes, it was all about the bikes and them on the bikes, chasing down the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, cars doing 35 miles an hour on the freeway while they're doing the speed limit, making it look like they're going so much faster.
Exactly.
Or Emergency, that show with the Squad 51 and the fire truck, you know, those, I just love that stuff as a kid, you know.
I mean, I just saw somebody, I don't know if it was a 164 or a 187 scale person, make the car 54, where are you? And he said, and he didn't even use the tagline. He just said, what is this? And
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was pretty cool. Like the historians of car TV shows and movies know exactly what that is as soon as they see it.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Even the old Highway Patrol series from the 50s, that still use kind of the Buick as their main character in that show as well. You know.
Yeah, we're really lacking that in this day and age. Today's movies suck for car enthusiasts.
Right. No, they don't hold the attention, so they're gone. And so you don't have the great car chases that you had of the past. Or
speaking of car movies and TV shows, I'm sure you're aware of this, but you may not have remembered, or you may not even known, but the movie Gumball Rally, based on the Cannonball run, and then the Cannonball was the spoof of, the real run. The Gumball Rally movie was, I think, the last production movie to not have those actor safety laws in it. Because those that movie specifically, those cars are truly doing the speed that the speedometer says. doing 160 down the LA basin with water in it. And you're thinking, how is that? That's not safe in any way, especially the Cobra that, what's his face was driving. How are you going to drive a Chevy Cobra in the LA basin with water all on the floor at 160? That's a death trap. But that was the last movie to really not have the actor safety laws in it. Like, I mean, hell, Cannonball Run had so many actor safety laws they couldn't speed at all, and it made you speed up the camera just one second faster, and you can tell how fake it is.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a good movie, but
I think the 70s was just a decade for these auto.
There's so many films came out that centered around the automobile.
Yes.
An amazing period in time when
it really was
stuff. And so recreating that in miniature is kind of cool.
Oh, it's way cool.
And also it's the fact that you could never afford, the one of these cars, but you can in miniature,
Oh yeah, exactly. It was cool. I recently, at the end of last year, I took my movie module to a train show, and I got hooked up with this switching and sipping and switching a module train club, and I'm going to transfer my module onto their train modules so I can get more exposure. And the great thing about their train layout or their module setup is it works perfect for our Route 187. So I don't have to maneuver the track any, I don't have to maneuver the road at all. It's perfect. And that's why I chose to go with that group as well. So I wouldn't have to change that much for the module for the 187 scale. But it was amazing that all the young people that had come up and instantly know what all my movie cars were. And they're young. They shouldn't know half of this stuff because it's all 70s, 80s related. It's 20 years before these kids' times. And they know it, which is really cool. And it's like me being a kid loving the movie. They obviously loved it too. They recognized the car.
That's awesome.
I'm surprised Kowalski reference. How many people got that? How many people? Vanishing Point. What's that? But a lot of people got the Kowalski reference from that movie. Like, fan club out there for that. These movies. And
well,
so
if you're in a specific car-related group, you would hope that those people knew it. I mean, they're into cars. They should like all these car movies. If they don't, what are they into cars for? I mean, the two go together.
Oh yeah, but I was just surprised that people caught on to the Kowalski. Who the hell is that?
Well, here's what's funny. Now, whether you like the movie or you thought it was just too stupid to be likable, but Naked Gun, where Leslie Nielsen parks the car outside of the police station and then it pops out of gear and has the airbags. I know Rapido just came out with like very close to that year of Caprice. And I just want to put some big balloons in the dash and have a cop shooting at the car saying, "Oh, did you catch the license plate of that driver?" And it's his car.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, nobody's going to probably realize what I'm trying to portray, but I'll know what it is.
Don't be surprised. There'll be somebody who'll catch it in there. I'm surprised at how many people can remember the subtle little details just of American Graffiti. And I hadn't seen that movie in ages.
That's one of the best car movies ever. Ever.
Yeah. That's car culture. But I guess they just came out with that model. I just saw it at Micromark a couple of weeks ago. So I ordered it. Built it. It's pretty cool. It's a showcase for vehicles.
Yeah.
And so I flipped in American Graffiti, watched it. Said, okay, take notes. And boom, this thing just hit the retail stores just a few weeks ago. And you're talking about somehow you could show any kind of era of car that it's like the Dairy Queen or the drive-in, whatever. You could mix and match cars and use it as your diorama.
Oh, easy.
So,
I mean, same thing with that RV, the Cousin Eddie's RV. I saw it. I picked it up right away. The day I brought it home, I took pictures of it. I put it up against a Fraser 187 scale person, and then I put it up against buildings, and I said, "Look at the, it's not exact, sure. I mean, the RV might be, a centimeter or two longer and maybe a little wider, but it's for the most part, it'll work." And so I got so many people say, "Oh, where did you get that? Where did you get that?" Even though I posted the picture of the box it came in that says Hallmark ornament. And so they're like, "Where did you get that?" I said, "I just went to Walmart." They go, "Oh, Walmart don't have it." I said, "Well, just go online. I'm more than sure eBay's got thousands of them. I mean, it's Christmas time. They've got to be selling them." And I couldn't tell you how many people actually bought it. I know this one guy who bought a Ghostbusters car from me, went that day that I posted, said, "I'm going to Walmart right now." And he found one, and he made his own little storyline with that one. I was like, see, that's what it's all about. It's showing the love that we have for cars and storytelling. Because even if you don't actually make a movie related or TV show related story, if you built a custom car, say you didn't custom, it's just a stock car, you built it, you have a story to tell with that car. You're going to tell everybody what you did to it, where you got the wheels, where you got the paint, whatever. You're going to say all this. So that's the story in a sense. It's just not an exciting, thrilling story like we could create with a movie themed or TV themed, style photo.
Well, car culture is uniquely American. I mean, we grew up with cars as clothing, cars that you did everything in,
Right.
All the way to death. You did everything inside of an automobile, and there's just so much material there to work with. Going back to the 40s all the way to present. And the other thing,
you could do it even in the 30s and do it like a Bonnie and Clyde scene. Take a 34 Ford and just have holes in it, gunshot holes all over it.
Yeah. I was telling Dan, there's now this YouTube phenomenon out there where guys are going back and taking the original movie footage where they would go out in the streets of LA or wherever and film scenes for B-roll. So you got to have, the screen behind you that you had where the cars are going down Wilshire or Sunset or whatever. This guy's modifying the image to make it super clear and colorizing it. And you can now go back and drive the streets of LA, San Diego, San Francisco in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s from old theater footage, old movie footage, and see all the old cars and buildings and everything to help you build your dioramas.
You guys send me a link to that because I never heard that.
It's a flourishing thing. Everybody's doing it now. There's a whole bunch of them out there, and you get just hours and hours of driving around LA in the 50s or the 40s or whatever.
That's crazy. That's awesome, though.
I've seen some of the guys doing that in Burbank.
Movies were there, Warner Brothers and Universal, and so I'll look around for neighborhoods that I know, and the houses are still there. And it's so funny because I can watch Adam 12, Rockford Files, Emergency. And those guys are all around Burbank, North Hollywood, Glendale, and it's so funny because if it weren't for the cars being a certain era, it looks the same. The houses
palm
look
trees
exactly
are the same size. Palm trees never seem to grow any taller out there.
Yeah, the lawns are the same, the houses are the same, but it must be the 70s because everything is 70s era cars. So I get a thrill out of that watching those old shows.
Well, I've seen there's a big thing on some Back to the Future groups that I'm part of, and they'll take stock footage, like a still shot of the movie scene, and then they'll go to that street and they'll put that picture up, and it'll be a perfect match to like where the camera's focusing on that picture, but the background is exactly proportional. Or they'll do it with the house. That house, I'm telling you, I don't know if you know anything about that house, but that damn house is probably the most visited house in all of Southern California or the country, because everybody loves Back to the Future and everybody knows where that house is. It's so easy to find. So you just roll up to that house and you take all the pictures you want. You put anything there you want. You take your little Hot Wheel, put on the sidewalk and take a picture of it in front of the house, whatever.
Yeah, my wife and I just recently went and saw the house for young Sheldon. It's in North Hollywood, and we took a picture of it. And the Wonder Years house is very close to where we're at. And so.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's what's so neat about. I'm not gonna lie, I can't stand California anymore for all its crap that it's that it's become. The overpricedness and everything, and the congestion, the population, everything about it. I just want all those cars to come out to the East Coast, and then that whole state can fall into the ocean. But the great thing about that state is literally what you just said. Everything is filmed out there, and you can find all of it. Yeah. Like I was watching, I was trying to find Dunder Mifflin in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
No, it's in it's north of LA.
Yeah.
In El Segundo maybe or something. Or and I found the actual building, an industrial park of that city, and I was like, I could just drive over there at any time and seen it this whole time and didn't know it.
Well, and then like I'll watch a show like The Office, and they'll be on the roof of their building supposedly, and they're doing something. It was that they were doing parkour, and that's in Burbank. It's right on Victory, and it's by the
that's where it is, Burbank. I was thinking El Segundo, but no.
Yeah, Burbank. No, it's in Burbank, and it's right by the hardware store I always went to. Back to the Future, where he comes out of the Doc's house, and you see the Burger King right there.
Oh yeah,
That's literally like next door to that. Right. Yeah.
It's so funny, and it's so funny that everything is just so it's literally so close to each other. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I lived in right before we moved to North Carolina. I lived in a little town called Camarillo, which is in Ventura County.
Yeah.
And if you take the freeway about 20 minutes, you get to this little town called Santa Paula.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the back road to get from 101 to the 5, right where Magic Mountain is.
Sure.
And they filmed all of Reno 911 in that town. All of it.
Yeah.
And they just use B-roll shots of the helicopter flying over Reno to make you think they're in Reno. And I was like, once again, I was right there. Yeah. And I didn't know they were filming it there. Man. But that's one of the neat things about Southern California is like everything is right there that you've seen on TV your whole life.
Well, we'll do, just sitting here in Colorado, we'll be watching TV and at the commercial. And I go, oh, well, that's right over by this park, or that's over on, Western,
Yeah.
And,
right.
It's not really Texas like they're saying it is,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
hilarious.
When I was living in Riverside, I was a half hour from where they were building the street for Marty McFly's house when they were in the 50s and they had the Lionsgate's brick walls there.
Yeah.
That road is literally a half hour from where I lived almost my whole life. I didn't know it until after I moved out here. I'm like, could have went there and took pictures of it. But yeah, it's California's cool for that. And then Hollywood is great just for being able to capture television shows and movies, so we can then model them, we can love them, and we can remember them for the rest of our life, and to be like immortalized in our brain forever.
Yeah.
And growing up out there, my family was from Pasadena, so you would always see back in the 60s and 70s streets blocked off where they're filming, and you could go watch and see them film a show, a couple blocks from where you are.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I mean, I'm a huge lowrider guy, and lowriding started in Southern California.
Sure.
And I grew up, they were all around. Anywhere I looked, I could see one. I could see them driving daily to work in lowriders, and it was just like, for me, being like, that loves lowriders, I was in heaven. Then I moved out to North Carolina. There ain't no lowriders out here.
Not in Colorado either. You got to have a certain amount of clearance here for the snow.
And you don't have, growing up in California, of course, with the weather, especially out in the San Joaquin Valley, all those towns were car towns. Every Friday night and Saturday night was just riding up and down Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
You could see all the classic cars in those areas.
Boulevard Nights is a perfect example. You go to the car hop and then you cruise the boulevard.
And you
go back to the car hop, and then you go back to the boulevard.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what kind of California epitomized that more than I think any other state.
It did. It really did.
Friday night, one parking lot, and drive up and down the street, and you don't have rust out there, so the cars last, and you got all kinds of great cars cruising around.
Right, and you really did.
I got to touch on just a little bit of Van Nuys Boulevard when I was still a teenager before they shut that down. And,
right, I heard about those. That was before my time.
And then we used to have the street races out in the valley, because I was in the San Fernando Valley, and every Saturday night the street races, and we got in some trouble, but they started shutting that down too.
If you're a street racer on the street, you're going to get in trouble.
Right. But we weren't doing that. I didn't have the money to build a race car, but we would go and watch.
If you're in that scene, if you're in the scene, the cops are going to roll up, and if you're associated with it,
and everybody's in trouble.
And then you get a call to your parents telling them, "Hey, your son's in trouble for being associated with these people."
He was supposed to be at the library, and he's at the street races? What?
Right. I thought he was at his friend's house studying.
Yeah.
We're studying cars.
Yeah.
We also grew up, in an era where the back of the high school lot was muscle car row, 70s, 1970s, you had kids driving all kinds of cherry muscle cars along the back row. I had a 66 GT Mustang at 16, and it was cherry, and it was parked next to all the GTOs and Camaros and Novas, and Javelins, and everything else back there. And that doesn't exist anymore. Those cars are only for the very well.
Yeah, you'll appreciate. My first car was a '64 Chevy Impala SS. Talk about a lowrider, and it was, I had a primered fender and a dent in the door, and my dad had used it to pull a boat with a little 283 V8, and it was worn out, and the suspension was shot on it, and I had to put a quart of oil a week in it, just to get to school. But hey, that was my car, and I took a lot of grief actually for being a white kid driving a lowrider car. In those days.
You would. Hey, my very first car was a '65 two-door hardtop.
Yeah. Oh, I love those.
I didn't have the super sport version. I didn't have the bucket seats, but it was still.
That's mine, right? So this was when I was 15 and a half. Oh, I guess.
Bring it to the camera.
Oh, the camera.
Yeah. Let's see if we can do it without the background. Nope, it's not going to show up.
Oh, but it's that. That was, it's this little one right there. That's the one right there. Oh, you got a little bit of it there, right?
Come on. I'm trying not to be a ghost here. I don't know what's going on.
High performance engine, got 4 tickets in 1 year. There it is.
So that's the '64 Mustang. Yeah.
I mean, they would, even in Northern California, in Cupertino, of all places, they would shut down Stevens Creek Boulevard on Saturday nights a couple times a summer just for cruising. And you could cruise for about a mile up and down, and different parking lots were set up for classic cars. And it was all sanctioned cruising that you could, you could do. And you could see some of the hottest cars you've ever seen.
Well, back in the '90s and early 2000s, in mid-California, Central California, they had Paso Robles that they do that. The biggest custom car cruise in the world happened in Paso Robles. And it would go, I think, 2 miles. It'd just be nothing but customs and lower cars and hot rods. And, in I'd say the early 2000s, right, when the rat rod boom blew up, you would get some of those too, but it was mostly customs. And it was one of the neatest things I'd ever seen, because cruising in my time was pretty much gone. You just go to a car show or a car cruise. You wouldn't be cruising. I go to that show and it's like, holy crap, I'm back in the 50s. This is awesome.
In Visalia and Modesto, Merced, those towns all along 99, all had cruising nights. All of them had drive-ins from the 40s. And they had that main boulevard and where everybody would cruise. And it's just a different world out there. It's just something else.
See, and I've told this on numerous episodes, and all my friends know it. I know I was born in the wrong decade. I should have been born in the 40s, had my teenage years in the 50s, and then been an old man after that. I don't care, but I would have loved to be a teenager in the 50s. That would have been like my heaven.
Yeah, my dad was that. He was born in 36, and he graduated high school in 55. He had a 40 Ford, and he had I have his car club plaque hanging in my garage, all that neat stuff, and pictures of his old cars and stuff.
That's way
But
cool.
even as late as 66, the 289 was an easy car to work in. You could do anything to these cars. They were so easy to modify and to work on yourself. And, kids, in high school had auto class. We'd put on headers and everything else. And, they were easy. You could do it yourself.
I mean, I know the engine bay in my 65, you could sit on the wheel wells and work on the engine. That's how big that engine bay was.
Absolutely. But so this is kind of a way to kind of relive those days. You can recreate them.
100%. And like the pictures you've been posting lately, you're telling a story of your youth. Basically, this happened when you were a young kid, a young adult when these movies were coming out,
right?
And it's capturing Americana at its finest, and you're telling stories with it. So I love that. Most people don't tell stories; they're just showing a picture and then the description of what they did. You're telling stories. You're bringing these cars and the picture to life. I love that.
Recreating something out of your past or something you had a fondness for. I mean, so many cool cars out there. I just can't pick a favorite. That's the other problem is that, I want this car, but no, I want this car. I want this car. I can't have them all. But in miniature, you can kind of do that, kind of relive your fantasy life of cars.
Definitely. I mean, that's what's great about dioramas is that you can have the car on the diorama, the building that you've always wanted to drive the car up into, and you can, if you're skilled enough or you have a 3D printer or whatever, you can make a miniature version of you and be like, I was at all these places. You can see in my dioramas, I was there. I was always there.
I love the guys that have the garages, their own little private garage, like it's their garage, with their high-priced cars inside of it. Or, and some of them are, wow, is that real? Is that, a model? It's pretty tough to tell sometimes, the recreation of them. But
well, when I first got into this scale hobby, because I started off as a 125th scale guy, and then I kind of got burnt out of that, and I went to 164 scale. I got burnt out of that, so I went to this scale. And when I started this scale, nobody was doing what I was doing. Nobody was building hot rods dedicated just to hot rods. Right. Nobody was doing rat rods. Nobody did a lowrider, really. Not an actual lowrider. They tried to make a version of it that didn't work. And I'm speaking to everybody that's watching that did a lowrider. You did it wrong. But yeah, and nobody was doing that. So I was like, oh, I've got this market covered. I'm the only guy. It's so cool. And then some other people started doing it. That's great. I inspired them to want to do it, show that it can be possible. But I took those skills from the bigger scales, put them to the smaller scale, showed them it could work. And same thing. It's like, I like a certain, era of vehicle or a certain kind of vehicle. I model it. And then I want to say, like, this was my car that I wanted my whole life. And now I'm bringing it to all these different locations. And that's like me reliving something I never truly had.
Right.
But, I have it in miniature.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's like we never, once a kid, always a kid too.
I'm a Toys R Us kid for life.
Love cars.
All these toys we get to play with all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
like you guys, I would assume anytime you go to a Walmart or a Target, you're going into that car section or the toy section to see if there's anything that you can use to help you with your layout or your collection.
Oh yeah, yeah. Dollar store, in the craft department in Walmart, you'll find all kinds of things that you can use.
Oh, yeah. just like the Griswold RV. I just mistakenly went down that aisle. I wasn't looking for that. I never knew it existed, and I was like, "This looks like the right size. Let me buy it." It was cheap enough, and I was like, I took it home, and it was exactly perfect. I was like, "Oh, this was made in heaven."
That's awesome. That's a find.
Yeah. Well, I just found this guy on a model railroading group that is 3D printing solid cars, not hollow with interiors, just solid cars. And I think he's only made one, because he posted a picture of it and said coming soon, and that was like mid-year last year, and it's still not out. But he made Eagle 5 from Spaceballs, the RV that flies in space. I said, dude, I want that. I need it. I will pay almost anything you want for it, almost to a point. I have to have it. He hasn't made another one, and he won't sell the original. Yeah. And I said, God dang it, I want that so bad. And most people that's never seen Spaceballs, in fact, anybody that never seen Spaceballs will have no idea what that car is for. Why is there wings on an RV? That doesn't make any sense. But the few that get it, those are the true followers.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
We can thank him.
Oh, Mike, you disappeared. There you are.
You know what? The fact that you vanish in and out, it just seems like you're a ghost, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're haunting the podcast.
Yeah. Now you can see John Milner's 32 Ford right there.
Yeah.
If I disappear, you gotta
Right. So then I got to ask, since that's your background, Mel's Diner, tell us a little bit about your Mel's Diner. I know you had that comparison shot when you first posted a picture of the 87 scale and the 64 scale. How long did it take you to build it? And, why did you build it? I mean, I know why you built it, but tell the viewers.
Of all things, it came up as a Facebook ad from Micromark about maybe 3 weeks ago is all. And I saw it and I said, what better way to showcase cars than a drive-in? I didn't even make a connection to American Graffiti at first. I just bought it to showcase automobiles as the backdrop for a bunch of classic automobiles. So it's not until after I got the thing and I saw the little logo for American Graffiti on the box, and I said, well, wait a minute, what is this? This is the American Graffiti.
Hold on. The fact that you didn't make the comparison right when you saw the photo of the building, you're canceled. Go away. We're not talking about no more.
No. First of all I saw was, wow, drive-in.
This is exactly what I'm looking for. In fact, I haven't even built my Dairy Queen yet, but I bought my Dairy Queen to be a place to showcase cars from the Central Valley. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I can showcase 50s, 60s, 70s cars, different eras, hot rod nights, whatever. So I got it. Then when I actually got the box, I said, wait a minute, I know what this is. This is from American. This is exactly the building of American Graffiti from San Francisco. So then it became, there's another story to it. There's more to this. You can do, it gives you San Francisco and San Francisco's culture, but it gives you the American Graffiti culture, but it also gives you just the drive-ins of the late 1940s and 50s that was just, ubiquitous all over the country, where cars would show up and you get your food in your car, and it's.
I mean, if you didn't go to the billiard room, you went to the car hop. Those were the two places you went, or you'd go to a park to get high and drunk. But those are the two places you went.
Yeah, or the lake. But the only place you got to see everybody's car is at the drive-in. Or you went to the movie drive-in, you could see that was another place to see classic cars.
That was where you went to make out in the car.
Yeah, exactly. But
I don't know, Mike. I wasn't looking at cars.
I even went to try and look at some of the cars. Some of the cars are pretty cool. But this is, I just wanted some place that I could showcase. And I have a lot of 187, but I also have a lot of 164. So the idea of expected shot, I can make 164 in that scene where somebody would say, I had no idea that's a different scale. I thought it was all the same scale. And then you're blending the two worlds together and creating all this material. I think you're going to see more of that as we go forward. I think it's catching on.
Well, I can tell you from my experience of being in this scale for, I don't know, 10 years, 10 years, that the true 187 scale fans will hate anything bigger than 187 scale or HO scale next to any HO building. But the 164 scale fans literally have no clue. They're just completely blinded. Like they don't.
There's the purists that want there's the model railroad purists that don't want to see, that
right.
And so you get a lot of that. But even some of the 164 guys, there's some purists. Oh, I want to be a 164 guy. But then there's also sites that are any scale that mix and match scales.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool too. They've got these, in any scale kind of thing, and you can kind of do that blending a little bit. But
the problem with 164 scale is most of their cars are meant to fit in that blister pack. If they don't fit in the blister pack, then it's not, it could be a different scale or whatever, but you get like a commercial vehicle, like a diesel truck, it's going to be 187 scale to fit in that blister pack.
Mm-hmm.
So these true 164 scale, people, not everything they have is 164. It's got to fit in that blister in order. So it could be a variation of all different scales.
Well, you get to that's where you get into different worlds. So within the 164 world, you have things like diecast promotions, code 3. These things are in the $100 to $150 range for a semi. That's true 164, but these semis are so cool. They are so realistic. I mean, ultra realistic. I have one or two, but boy, who's got $100 to spend on one of these things?
Right.
Now, Greenlight will make the trucks like the cement mixer and the garbage truck and stuff like that, and they sell them for about $15, and they're not in your standard blister pack. They're the bigger ones that things like that. But within that whole 164 world, you have the whole farming community. There's a huge community that does farming stuff.
Right.
And then there's a truck community that does trucks. So there's all these different, little communities out there, but for some reason 164 just got it in that farming world, that Ertl world, and that is huge. There's a lot of people out in there.
Just like the 187 scale, it's mostly commercial, big rigs, commercial construction, road-ready vehicles. That dominates this whole 187 scale world that you're getting into, and I've been into. And when I first started this scale, I was super disappointed that people weren't, building passenger vehicles like a model car club or like the 164 scale people.
It didn't exist. Outside of Europe, the Europeans did a little bit of it, but not in American cars right away. So you
and
get
I totally
it in 187. So when I was in the 70s, my layout had Matchbox on it, a lot of it.
Well, everybody's layout did.
I found a couple 187s. Wow, look at this little thing. It's 187. And eventually I was able to get more money and switched over to 187. But I even took all the Matchbox 164s off the Parker layout. This is big fancy layout. He's got 164, so I took them off with 187 on there. Work. S scale American Flyer is 164. But, but you can get away with it. I think in photography, you can get away with that forced perspective that makes it all look pretty cool.
You just know how to you need to know how to take the photo, and then
the right photo with the right aperture and the right distance.
A 125th scale car, put it on the layout, and if the camera is focused the
far
right way,
back,
it'll look like it
was
a
really
187
cool.
scale. Yeah.
And as long as you're dealing with that two-dimensional, you're not doing video, you're not doing in real world, you can get away with it and looks it's cool. But on a layout, no way can you do that. You can't do that. If somebody's coming, it's got to be all on the same scale. Or if you're making, it's got to be all the same scale on the video too, because it doesn't
definitely
unless one still shot video for a couple seconds. But with regular photography, then you can do a lot with that. You can get away with quite a bit.
Well, it's like you said earlier. I'd say within the last 2 years, the 1/64 scale dioramas, the buildings, the houses, they've blown up, and I think it's thanks to 3D printing mostly, because there's no companies that are truly focused on that scale to make just buildings like there is in the train world. So it's 3D printer with small businesses, that are like small personal people businesses that are making these buildings and these houses in that scale.
Yeah, and there's also things you can do with photography where you can print off a picture and it looks really cool. Like as an example,
he's got so much cool stuff. It's mind-blowing.
I bet it is.
Now this is they make these in 1/64. I don't know if can we show that without, can we get it on the screen where they can see it?
There you go. Oh, yeah. The building fronts or building sides.
Yeah, so this is an exact 1/87 scale version of this building, because they sell them in 1/64. And with, again, on a layout, this would have to be way back, against the back. It wouldn't work anywhere else. But for photography, I mean, you would never have known that I put this in between two regular 1/87 plastic buildings that I made. And it just fits right in with photography, it fits perfectly. And so you can get these, and this little guy right here is exactly 1/87. This was done to 1/87 scale exact. And you can get them, like I said, you can start incorporating that into dioramas if you're just taking a picture.
Look, there's a guy, I don't know if you're aware of him. His name's Ken Hamilton, one of the best modelers I've ever seen in my life. He just did this model. He gets commissioned to do models that are just storefronts or just the side of a building, nothing else. It's unbelievable what he gets commissioned to do, because I don't understand it. But he just did a bedroom. So he did a bedroom, like a corner of a bedroom, like 2 walls going into a triangle. And it might have been in maybe 1/25th scale. He made this room, and it's got this, it's like a 1940s, 50s style room. You got the wallpaper, and then he's got different types of wallpaper. It looks like it's peeling. And he's got this like iron trestle bed frame, kind of that would creak and, and he made this corner room look so real. And he's got this window in the wall. And on the other side of the wall, about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, he put HO scale building side there. So when you look through the wall, you actually see it as a distance of the building side of across the street or something.
Right, using perspective.
And it was so impressive that he even knew to think to do that. It was amazing. I don't know why he built it. I didn't read any of the descriptions he wrote, but I saw every picture he made of that. And it was just like unbelievable.
And Ken Patterson's a master of that too. When he does his photography, he uses layers. Yes. He uses multiple layers to create that depth illusion. And so he'll have, one set of like trees and then the mountain, and he has these multiple layers. And that's what I kind of learned from him is do the depth, start with this and then go. And the lake scene that I did right up there, I've actually done it where it's 1/64, then it goes into 1/87, then it goes into N scale. So the canoes on the lake are in N scale. And
that's awesome.
You just do this, and then you get the right shot, and it makes it all look perfect.
That's so funny you say that, because I just picked up, I'll be right back. I just picked up my first perspective photo diorama thing. So I'm going to build, it's almost like 2 bookends of the Harry Potter train.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get the characters kind of like on a cliff where the track is going. So there'll be a tunnel, and then half the train will be in the tunnel on this side, and then the other book end will have the other track with the passenger cars here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put it in like a triangle shape, but in the back of the triangle, right in the corner, I bought this Funko Pop thing, and I don't know if you can see, but it's got
I can see the castle.
It's got the Harry Potter school, and this school is probably like Z scale, probably smaller than Z scale.
Right,
but I thought for that same exact thing, you put it in the back. It doesn't even have to be far. It could be 5 inches away, but it'll look like it's really far back.
It looks like it's up on a hill or wherever.
Yeah.
That's all done with perspective.
So I'm going to try that. I've never done that before, but I'm going to try that. Because I thought that school in HO scale would be the size of an 8-foot table probably, and maybe 4 feet tall. And there's no way I'm going to be able to put that on a diorama.
Right.
But if I can make something small, maybe like 2 foot by 1 foot or 2 foot by 1.5 foot or something, that could work easy.
I've seen layouts in Europe where they've had in the very distance N or Z scale to make it look like you're, way far away. They got trains way far away, and they'll add those in the distance on an actual. But you can't tell. You're so far away, you can't tell.
I think Wonderland in Germany does
in Hamburg,
that. Yeah.
They do that in some of their modules as well. They'll do that perspective kind of thing. But I mean, that's, to me, that's what they're doing over there right now. They've come a long way in 20 years. They're putting some master model builders over there now.
I mean,
it's just incredible.
I think the whole museum layout is 20 million. I mean, the airport by itself was 4.
Yeah.
So the rest of that layout with however many countries, and they're still, I think, building more countries to it.
Yeah, they added a whole new building.
Jeez.
But if you look at the Italian and the Rio and the recent ones they've done, it's just light years ahead of what they started out with. Because they have master model builders making this stuff.
I mean,
and
they
3D
got
printing is nothing to them.
Right, they got HO scale figures that actually move. They're chopping wood or they're doing whatever. Like, what? How'd you get a little tiny solenoid motor to move his arms like that?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
That place makes a lot of money. And
I've got a dedicated follower of my channel. His screen name is TV Comms, but he's doing a Grand Valley layout too. He's animating all his people. So when you look into, he's got a brewery and he's got an animated forklift, and then he's got a guy that's taking boxes and turning and bringing it out to the dock,
Geez.
And it's
That's
just
awesome.
It's really cool, the stuff that people can do, with even in such small scale.
Yeah, the really cool one is the bicyclists in 187.
Oh yeah,
bicyclists going around.
Yeah, that is really
the Magna.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool.
Neat.
So I want to take that same system, that Magna pull or whatever it is, and I want to have my Ghostbusters car coming out of the Ghostbusters building, firehouse, doing that left-hand turn like they do in the first movie, and then just going right back into the building.
That'd be awesome.
Doing it over and over again. I think that'd be cool. Or just get one of those RC remotes that they got for the 187 and modifying the Ghostbusters car so when you hit the gas, the lights turn on and everything, and then when you stop it, the lights turn off.
Yeah.
They could just drive around people's layouts or whatever, crash into other cars.
It's a cool miniaturization has just allowed this whole hobby to explode, because now we got lighting, we've got I mean the detail is fantastic on some of this stuff.
Well,
you got all this new stuff.
Doing this podcast, I don't do editing really at all, but when I do a very little bit of editing, I found out that the Windows video editor has the ability to add motion to still pictures. Like you can have like a smoke scene, like it's called a cigarette smoke, and if you shrink it down very small, it can be the exhaust smoke from a car or from a diesel truck, and you can put multiples on all the vehicles, so it'll still be a still scene but with motion
or
going
with a chimney. I've seen that. I've seen guys do that. You could have like a still photo of your steam engine, but you have smoke coming out of the steam engine. Yeah. It's really cool. It's really some cool stuff.
In a sense, I mean, that's the next best thing, because it's built into the computer already. I don't have to buy nothing for that. It just, takes a little bit of time, and then you got yourself a much better photo because it's actually playing the smoke going or whatever, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't know who it is, but one of the guys on Ken's show does that, and all his photography is phenomenal with that smoke stuff. Yeah, just absolutely great. So,
I mean, Ken spent a lot of years trying to figure out his stuff and a lot of money. And, I didn't spend any money, and I could put smoke in a photo. So, booyah, Ken, booyah. No money spent. Maybe next time I'm on his show, I'll bring that up. So, how much did you spend on all that photography? But
he's got quite a portfolio, though.
Oh, he does. I mean, he's one of the leaders in this hobby. For this scale in this hobby, he's one of the leaders, and he's definitely a go-to person to get any information you possibly would ever need to help you, model or whatever you want to do with this hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he keeps telling me, dude, you got to get sponsors. You got to get sponsors. That's how you're going to make that money. I'm like, I'm not doing this for the money, Ken. I still have a full-time job. I mean, I know that your YouTube is your full-time job, but I'm very, very far away from you.
Right.
I can't even see how far away you are.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that money yet. But that's what's cool. I mean, he gives that advice for free. And I think that's what's really cool about this hobby in general. Like, most people in it are just so willing and so nice just to help you out with anything and everything, that I know specifically back in the 90s in the model car scene, the 125th scale scene, the higher ups, the elites, they were like, I'm not telling you nothing. I'm not telling you how I made my car look this good. You'll do the same thing, and then I'll have to compete against you. No, this is my stuff. And then it opened up in the, say, mid 2000s, where it got more, everybody was willing to help each other. And now, everybody's helping each other with everything. Yeah. Especially with COVID. I mean, COVID hit, and now you can't see each other. You can't go to anybody's house. And it's like, oh, well, this Zoom type thing, and in the YouTube videos, I'm going to do everything I can to show everything.
Yeah, that's what I do on my channel. And a lot of people reach out and ask questions, and how do you do that? Or what's the best way to do this? And, I'm not an expert, but I just show them how I did it. And, they like it, it helps.
That's the greatest thing of all, really. I mean, you don't have to be the expert, but you've inspired somebody to like the way you did it to where they want to do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, to be honest with you, Mike, I thought you built that thing because you saw mine. And I was thinking, I inspired somebody else. How awesome.
No, I've seen your Ghostbusters on Ken's show, though.
Yeah.
When you were on Ken's show with it, well, you've been a couple times, but I've seen all your stuff on Ken's show. And then, of course, you've obviously displayed it at some shows, live shows as well. So really, really cool. But no, I'm just looking for anything that will kind of display cars.
Yeah, that's how I was. Yeah.
There's a guy in Germany on the 164 site, Frank. He's out of Germany. He must have an entire warehouse full of modules in 164.
Wow.
And he's got obviously enough money to buy every 164 car there is. And he just rearranges on the modules. He's got Brooklyn.
That's awesome.
He's got mountain scenes. He's got Wyoming. He's got all this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
He does the cars and he puts out product 2 or 3 times a day. That's how much stuff he's got. And
awesome.
It's amazing how in tune with America he is, even though he lives in Germany. He's a German. I mean, everything about, all the different states and the different locations and things like that.
That's like the 3D guy mad about cars. His name is Jan.
Yep.
His whole focus of 3D printing cars is American cars. All of it. He loves American cars. He's been out here to America several times, but he's in, I think, Germany as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so
absolutely,
he's like a blessing in this hobby, because before he was printing or offering those designs, there was very little, present day cars or just off the wall cars that, a big company wasn't going to plan on building or designing or making. So he's helped this.
What's amazing is that on the 164 sites, you're getting people from all over the Middle East and Asia and the world that are into American dioramas of American cars. You don't see that as much in the 187 as you do in the 164. No. You get all these different foreign languages and people, saying all this stuff.
I did an episode Saturday. I did an episode Saturday with a guy from Indonesia. He's a 164 scale lowrider builder. Mm-hmm. He makes the adjustable suspensions, and we found this guy, I think half a year ago, that's just started 3D printing actual lowrider rims, like real lowrider rims, to authenticate the actual look. So we're hooking up with these guys, and these guys are doing like real car paint jobs, like candy paint jobs and lowrider style paint jobs on these lowrider 64 scale cars. And I interviewed him. I said, so when did you find a love for, lowriding? He goes, I've always loved American cars. They are the best. And I said, well, there you go. He obviously knows what he's talking about.
It's something else. I mean, just especially Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, really into American car, but not American cars, as well as the fire engines and police and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Big following.
Well, I can honestly say I have a big following for European exotic cars. And any scale. But that's about as far as my European love goes. It's just supercars.
Yeah, supercars are a little out of my price range, unless they're in 164 or 187.
Right.
And then there are, in fact, I just got a Rolls-Royce Phantom 4, beautiful model in 164. Little pricey at 20-something bucks, but
beautiful. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful model.
Colors, and one's like full gold.
Oh yeah, and then the new Bentley. I bought a Bentley from Mini GT in 164, and I looked at it and I go, this is awesome. This Bentley is just top notch.
See, it's funny, if I could get really back into that scale, which I've been out of it for a while. I do dabble in it because I dabble in all three scales. I'll go back and forth when I get kind of bored off the one. And I keep everything from all those scales so I can just jump right back into it. But I think if I was a true collector or just a really true customizer that wanted that high-end custom model, I'll tear apart one of those cars. It's nothing to me. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you have the skills to pull it off, it shouldn't matter how much a car could cost. You can make it better, make it look different, open the doors, do whatever.
Oh, sure.
And something that costs $20-$30, I mean, who cares? I think the most expensive car I tore apart was Hot Wheels came out with a Redline Club 64 Impala lowrider, pink with roses all over it. I ended up not being able to buy the car when it was offered. I had to go to eBay buy. It was $115. As soon as I got it from the mail, I drilled out the rivets and took it all apart. $115. I said, I hope I don't screw this up, but if I do, oh well. Now
pressure there.
The rivets are already, I mean, I made it look way better, but that wasn't the point. The point was, what if I screw this up?
Well, that's how we are with our locomotives. You buy a DCC and sound locomotive nowadays, and they can be $300-$400, and you're modifying it and doing stuff, and boy, you're kind of a little bit nervous
so funny
about
you say that, because I have this dream of making a double long big boy out of a fully movable and working big boy. I want to just scratch build the middle of the tender, take the cab off of one, put them two together so the wheels all roll, make the world's longest steam engine they've ever seen that'll never go around any corner. It's made for straightaways only.
Alexa just started talking to us.
It's hearing me. It wants to help you do that. If I can't do it, you should do it. Buy two big boys and make it happen.
There you go. Got her attention.
Have you seen that Greenlight has a new series called Lowriders in 164?
Oh yeah. I'm all over that.
Yeah, they've got a new series. It's not out yet, I guess, but they're close. But they're going to have
the
a series.
Prototype. There's a prototype of the Gypsy Rose, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. The most famous lowrider of all time. They actually got the license to do the first Gypsy Rose, which is a '63 Impala. I don't know how they got that license. It makes no sense to me because they won't give up the license for the present day Gypsy Rose, which is a '64 Impala. But they got the license for the original one, and that thing, I saw the prototype completely done. Oh my God, I want that car. I want like 5 of them. And they're regularly priced, I think, at like $699. So they're not expensive. They're completely reasonable.
Oh yeah. And you can modify those too. They come with
and I will
put all different kinds of tires and rims on them, and you can take them to the paint booth and do your own painting and stuff like that. You can really customize that stuff really well.
Well, see, I can, as much as you can customize 164, I can do the same thing with 187 just as good. A lot of people can't, but I'm just tooting my own horn.
You have good eyes. You know?
Yeah,
it's getting harder as I get older to see this stuff.
When I work on that stuff, I got the mad scientist visors with the Coke bottle lenses.
I'll give you for instance. I think it was probably 6 years ago now. I took a Jordan Highway Miniatures Ford sedan, 2-door sedan, and I just built. And that body is a horrible kit to build because each side panel is one panel you have to glue to the other panel. It doesn't come as a full body that sits over a frame. You got to build the side door panel, the back panel, the other side door panel, then the cowl, then the window frame, then put the roof on. So I built it, and then I went and chopped the damn car. So it's got a chop to it, like a 5-inch scale chop. And then I built a custom frame, put a flat inline 6 engine in it. I didn't go with the original V8 or the V8 that everybody else would have went with because it made it look longer with a straight 6. I put spark plugs in that. I actually could see with my eyes then, 5-6 years ago, where each spark plug needed to go. Well, those spark plugs came undone, and I tried to reattach them. I can't see where they go no more. I don't think I could build that model today like I did 5-6 years ago. That just really makes me mad.
It's getting harder and harder to do 187.
It tells me I'm getting older.
Too small.
Yeah, I don't feel older, but my eyes are telling me different.
Absolutely. I got to use those big things,
Oh yeah.
To do it.
I couldn't even
get there.
I wouldn't be able to do anything with I struggle with the couplings on HO scale cars and planes flying away and stuff. Couldn't even imagine N scale.
Oh shoot. I thought about dabbling into that, making custom cars for some people because I figured I might be able to because I could see spark plugs on an HO scale engine. Why couldn't I see a N scale white wall or something? But I just didn't get into it. I thought I got too many things going on. I don't want to add something else to it. But I mean, it was a thought for a while. I thought, HO is nothing. I can do N. But no, I'll leave that to the other people that want to do it. But even then, you put all that work in an N scale, you wouldn't even see it. So why put it in there? Just keep the car stock and put it on the layout and be done with it.
That's what most guys do. I mean, they don't dabble too much in a lot of detail.
Right. It's bad enough that you can put sound in an N-scale engine. Imagine doing anything to a vehicle in that scale. The car is 4 times smaller than the engine.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But here's what's funny. I do want to take an N-scale like sugar cube speaker and put in the ecto for that siren. I just don't know.
Cool.
Yeah, I have an actual speaker that sits inside the firehouse for the siren because I always leave the car right outside of the firehouse. Right. But if I RC that car, I'm gonna have to put a speaker in there. I don't know if it's gonna fit with the wiring and the mechanics of the RC. So we'll see.
God, I don't think I've ever seen a car with sound. 187. I don't think I've ever seen it.
No, I don't think. I mean, with lights, sure, but yeah, with sound.
Yeah, lights.
Yeah. And I think with the N-scale engine speaker, you could maybe pull it off. It'd have to be a hollow body, like a 3D printed hollow body. You take the interior out or whatever, black out the windows, and then put that cube in there. And then you can also have it light up. But I mean, you're not going to have it move if you have that speaker in there. So I'm going to have to figure out a way, if I RC that Ecto, how to get a speaker in there as well.
Definitely.
Because I don't want it pulling a trailer. It doesn't need to pull a trailer with the speaker. It has to be in the car.
Yeah. It has to be in the car itself. Wow.
Right.
That'll be a first. I think that'll be a first. I've never seen one.
Well, I'll tell you what. I do a lot of firsts. I'm not trying to brag on that either, but I have the first Ectos that were ever made in HO with lights. I mean, Wonderland don't even have their Ecto with lights. And they came out with their Ecto before I did. They didn't have my permission to do it. I didn't give them the permission to come out with the Ecto first. How dare you people? So I said, if they've done it already, I can't say I have the first, but I can say I have the first lit up one.
Lit up one. That's cool. That's really cool. That's so cool.
Have you guys actually seen like the videos of it lit up? Besides that, what might have been on Ken's show? I don't even think Ken did a good job.
I think so, because I've seen the ones where he had the B-roll from the show.
Oh yeah.
Where he was at they had the B-roll from the show on it.
Yeah.
And then he's been on a couple of times, I think. Right.
I'm going to show you one that he hadn't taken a picture of, or a B-roll of. So, you know, with this new movie that came out, essentially there's 3 versions of the Ecto. There's the first movie, the second movie car, and now a second version of the first movie car, just really weathered and whatnot. So I built the first movie car and I said, okay, cool. I've got that taken care of, but let me build the second movie car. Now the second movie car, if you guys are familiar with Ghostbusters, has twice as more lights on the roof than the first movie car. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know, I don't do the lights myself. I send it over to East Coast Circuit. I think they're in Connecticut. I said, if you can pull this off, you guys will be the masters of all time. And they pulled off the Ecto 1A in HO scale with all the lights. And let me turn this camera over.
Wow.
So it even has the tail lights.
Look at that.
I mean, these tail lights are literally the size of pins.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how they did it, but it's even, you see those yellow directional lights?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's like from the police cars and stuff.
Right. Cool. They pulled that off, and then there's 2 light bars on the roof. So they got that like 80s style not gumball, but like fat light bar.
Wow.
And then they got the thin, like say 90s style light bar that sits on top of it. And they even put lights in that.
How many total lights are in that vehicle?
There's over 40. I think there's 45. Because the gumball
187 Cadillac, unbelievable.
Yeah, the gumball rotating light, those are individual lights too, set up in a circuit board to do that.
Wow, that is amazing.
So this is the only one in the world, Ecto 1A, in the world. Nobody else that has publicized it on social media or anywhere else. Nobody's done that, and if they have built it, they don't have it lit up. So
I mean, there's got to be a way you could put that into a night scene where you could honestly take the picture and everybody would think it was the real thing.
Yeah,
the absolute real thing.
Well,
and nobody would have any idea that was a miniature model.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden have your finger come in.
Yeah, right. Well, so this is, I got a lot of junk everywhere, but this is the movie module and this is the firehouse. So I think with this lighting, if I set this car up right,
there's Mel's.
I even have the firehouse that lights up. If there's batteries in this still. Yeah, so the firehouse is pink. It's got pink lights, and even in the inside of the firehouse, you got Janine.
Oh, you got the receptionist gal.
Yeah, Yeah. So if you set it up here and you got the Ghostbusters out front, I mean, it could kind of look somewhat real, like I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, you could, with the right photography, you could make it so that people think that's a scene from the movie and not an actual model.
Right, right, yeah.
Those lights, you could do a lot with those lights to make it look where people thought, oh, that's just a scene from the movie. It's not a model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the right background.
So, yeah. You could do some neat stuff with that.
Well, and that's what I like. I like building scenes like you like building scenes. You're like trying to tell a story. And you're doing it in a way that is recognizable to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You know, you're doing famous stuff, which is essentially, in my opinion, one of the coolest things in modeling you can do, because it's instantly recognizable. You understand what's happening, and it brings you back to the first time you've seen it, or just brings you back to the last time you've seen it. So that's what I like to do, and that seems like what you're seeming to do as of late too.
And I'll do commentary too sometimes on like real world events and stuff, like, you know, the riot scenes and stuff, like that kind of stuff. There's one where I'm going to take the Lake Tahoe scene, and I'm going to have a whole series of trucks on their way, like DC, and I got a little bit of the 187 Army guys and stuff. They're going to be at the other lake.
Wow.
And just do like a commentary on what's going on today, you know, kind
of
thing.
You could be the news reporter.
Yeah. Just, you know, but kind of humorous, but also just, hey man, that's cool. Let's do this, you know?
Yeah.
Because when I did my police station, I've got all sorts of BLM graffiti all over it, you know?
Oh yeah. That's awesome. You have to. Yeah.
You know?
That's
just
great,
little things, little touches like that, you know?
I don't do like current stuff like that. I'll just, when I get something new, like I had a friend, Joseph Belivens, print me out, it's not the first, but it might be the first most realist version of the Munsters coach.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, there's been several people that scratch built theirs, but you can tell they're scratch built. This was 3D printed and it came out relatively decent. And so with my skills, I made it look just unbelievably awesome. And so when I get something new, I'll start taking tons of photos with it. So it's not current event, it's just current in my collection that I can start telling stories and you know, posting pictures of it everywhere possible.
Mm-hmm. Wow. There's a guy down in Colorado Springs called Dragon Man. He has 164 military vehicles, but he has 30 to 40 hot rods. And he's got one of the Munsters. He's got one of the original Munsters vehicles down in there. And
that's awesome.
And I
think I might have seen that person before. Maybe
he used to live in New York. Now he's to go through the museum. He gives a private tour, 2.5 hours straight walking to see his museum.
That's awesome.
That's how long it takes.
I do it.
And he's got motorcycles. He's got hot rods, dragsters. He's got everything. But one of the Munster mobiles is down there.
I'd only want to see the cool stuff. You can keep all that military stuff on another garage.
Yeah, that's got he's got a lot of military stuff, but he's a big 50s guy. So he's got diner after diner after diner interior in a huge
that's
building.
Even better.
And I mean, jukeboxes, gasoline pumps, bicycles, motorcycles, cars, everything. 100% Americana. But
he's a guy after my own heart.
Oh. Yeah, he's got that motorcycle that he made with the dragon head, shoots out flames.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that's where he got his name, Dragon Man. He used to drive around New York with that.
Wow!
And it would shoot flames and stuff and out his
Scared
mouth.
The living crap out of all those people out there.
Yeah, he's kind of a nut, but Boy, he's got a lot of
same
stuff, a lot
thing
of
he
cars.
did with his motorcycle. I've always, and you might think of me weird, but I've always wanted to drive a black hearse around old folks' homes dressed as a Grim Reaper. Just start pointing. I think that'd be the funnest thing. Maybe they'll have a heart
crazy
attack.
is like
Maybe
the
they'll
movie.
just think it's funny.
Just do like the movie where you're at an intersection, you make a sharp turn, and out the back goes the hearse. And somebody it goes on the ground, and somebody gets up and runs off.
And the bottom of the hearse has to have wheels, so you're not ruining the casket, or the bottom of the casket has to have wheels, so you're not ruining the casket.
Exactly.
And then it has a retractable chain on it or something. I can just pull it back in. You just do it for those turn corners.
But you got a guy that's actually in there, and he gets up and runs out.
Yeah, right. Maybe he's dressed in a skeleton outfit and he just runs.
And he just runs,
Yeah.
Takes off running or whatever. And holy crap.
That would be funny. That'd be just as good as dressing up as the Grim Reaper. It really would be. This has always been a thought of mine. But
no, that's scary. I mean, they've had a RC car that had a skeleton driving it. The guy was behind driving for real. With the skeleton.
Right.
In the front seat.
Yeah, I just there's I don't know what cable or satellite provider you guys have out there, or you have, but there's a show on my cable provider called Cars TV. It's a minuscule channel that really nobody watches because they play maybe the same 10 or 20 different shows over and over and over again. It gets really stupid after a while. But they have this show called Cars and Octane, or Octane and Cars or Coffee or something. And it's the world's supposed biggest car cruise that travels the country. And they went to a guy that had a Rolls Royce, like a 70s style Rolls Royce limo. And he converted to where he sits in the back and has the skeleton sit in the front. And it was really a neat idea, but that note from where you sit in that driver's seat, which is in the very back of the car, that nose in the front of the Rolls Royce is like probably 10 feet. I don't know how he drives it. It seems to be almost impossible to be able to see anything.
Well, today you can get away with it with the front cam, the cams, and the grill.
I think he built that before that option, though. Yeah, I think he built that car before that option was out there. But yeah, that would be the way you drive it today.
But, you do it today, then. Right.
Yeah.
And you could fake.
And I know they did that in
freeway at night and have some guy in a skeleton on the front.
Right, that'd be awesome. I know they did that same idea in Cannonball Run 2. They had a monkey sitting in the driver's seat of the Cadillac limousine.
Exactly.
That's a cool option too. And even if you modeled that Cadillac, nobody would know what that was from. But those people would, the few people that did, those would be the true
they would
people.
recognize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, or you could model the, the same thing. You could take the 71 Challenger, and put a mini bike with a siren on it, stick it on the top. How many get that reference?
Hardly anybody. But those people, those true fans, if you run across any of them, just give them a high five.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I saw that movie in the theater of all things, which dates me, and that's all we were talking about afterwards was the mini bike on the car with the siren.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so a lot of British people in the 164 scale and the 187 scale, they want to get a yellow Mini Cooper and put Mr. Bean sitting on his love seat on top of the roof. How many people are going to get that? Hardly anybody. Most of those people that remember that are, no offense, old. Young people.
Or a real movie aficionado,
Yeah. But, that
cool.
To bring it back to, what we're talking about, modeling and stuff, that's what's neat about this hobby, is more companies are building stuff that we can use to tell stories with, not just make a train layout or a car module, but you can actually have something you can make a story with, and a neat story, because everybody that's a car lover, seen these movies, loves these movies, and it's cool. It's really cool.
Oh,
and I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, and another one I'm doing right now is I'm watching old Law and Order episodes from 1989, and I'm just with my camera, I just paused the thing, take a snapshot of the New York and the police car, and I'm recreating that in miniature to go out and say, hey, here's the scene on TV, here's the scene in miniature, going through the time from 89 to present. And you can do that with 164. I can't do it with 187 because they don't make all the different vehicles, but in 164 they do. So you can recreate all kinds of stuff.
That's cool. It's not something I would do, but I'm glad that you want to do it, because anybody that does anything different is automatically doing something cool because it's different than what everybody else is doing. If everybody did the same thing, it wouldn't be cool. It'd only be cool that first time, and then everybody else is just a copycat.
Oh yeah.
So it's cool that you're thinking outside the box and creating new stories to tell.
Oh, absolutely. But it's just now that you can do these little, snippets of movies and television and kind of recreate them, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, it really is cool.
I'll put little things little kind of jelly beans to see who picks up on it.
Yeah, little Easter eggs everywhere.
There'll be something in there that I want to see if anybody recognizes this one,
Right.
Not so blatant as like a naked lady, but something along the lines of will they pick up on this little piece of the scene,
Well, there's who was it? Something International. Malibu International came out with a movie fleet of vehicles, and they had the GMC pickup from Dazed and Confused, which
Dazed and Confused, right?
A lot of people aren't going to know. And then the GTO, the yellow GTO from Dazed and Confused, which most people don't know this, is the same GTO they used in Two Lane Blacktop. The same car. And
that was the GTO Judge, right?
Yeah. And the cool thing about American Graffiti that ties into Two Lane Blacktop, which most people don't know, the same 55 Chevy is the same car, just painted gray and painted black.
And painted black.
So you can say if you have the black one, which was filmed after Two Lane Blacktop, you have both cars.
Oh, absolutely.
The gray's underneath the black.
Yeah, I mean, even Dazed and Confused, in some respects, was a car movie too. It showcased
total car movie.
Us in the mid '70s. That's like I said. That's my high school was like.
Yeah.
Guys could drive around in GTOs and Camaros and Chevelles, and that.
Yeah.
You could go out and buy one of those as a kid because they were cheap.
Right.
In the 1970s, and that's my culture. That's right. Look, there.
It's funny, when Dazed and Confused came out, I saw that in the theater and I said, oh my God, this is one of the coolest period movies I've seen since maybe American Graffiti or something. And I told my dad instantly, I was like, Dad, this is your time frame. You got to watch this movie. He was like, okay, I'll watch it. And he watches it and he goes, that wasn't my lifestyle. I said, what are you talking about? That hasn't been everybody's lifestyle in that time frame. He goes, I lived in a boat on the dock with my dad. We lived literally in a sailboat. I surfed every day. We didn't go cruising. I rode a skateboard to the beach or to my friend's house. And then if I wasn't there, I was on the beach surfing. I was like, you just ruined my childhood dream of your childhood. Thanks for that. I'm a car guy, you're a surf guy. They got to go somewhat together, but no.
Well, I was in '76, California. I was in the 8th grade, so that is exactly the time period of that movie. That's what he's trying to get across. So it's everything from the music, the way people talk, the way they look, the automobiles, everything was right out of 1976, and that was, to me, it just hit. So I mean, I even threw when that came out on DVD, or it was DVD. I threw a '76 party at the time because all my buddies from junior high school, we all grew up I threw a party. We all dressed that way. We all just, you know.
Yeah.
And
that was your anthem.
Oh, absolutely. The music, the cars, the way, the whole thing was right.
Okay, I do have to ask one question, because my dad said he doesn't know anything about those paddles. In their high school on the beach, they didn't make these paddles because you weren't doing that when he was in high school. But did they do that when you
No, that was not a California thing. They did not do that.
Because the movie's filmed in Texas. It's based in Texas. So it must have been a Midwest to maybe Eastern thing that they
or
did
Texas.
That.
It's a Texas-based thing, but
yeah.
But what I liked about it, I mean, they got a lot of the clothing right. What people were definitely wearing. Obviously, the music is great for that period of time.
The cars, the music.
The music.
The atmosphere.
Doing anything to get a drink. Going to the Moon Pie or whatever to party up at the Moon Tower.
No, the billiards. I know you guys had billiards out there in that time frame in California.
Oh yeah.
They were all over the country.
But even in that period of time, you cruised a lot. You were in your car, and you were trying to find the quote the fun. You're driving around for hours looking for a party. Or where is everybody? You didn't have cell phones. So,
right? No.
Just right on the money.
Mouth. You go
That's
to
right on the money for us.
You go to a car hop, and they said, "Oh, these guys are meeting there." And you're like, "Okay." I'm telling you, I was born in the wrong time frame.
Yeah.
I didn't get to have any of that.
And those characters in that movie are right on. I mean, there's so many schools. Those were the characters. There was somebody like each and every one of those characters in a lot of these suburban style, high schools, junior highs throughout the country.
Where football and basketball was like the main thing you needed to do to get out of your small town. That was the only. If you weren't joining the Army, you needed that scholarship. You needed that ride to get out of town, and that was what it was. I'm telling you, I was just born in the wrong time frame.
Well, it helps that the music of that particular era was really good too.
Oh well, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but I appreciate all of it for what my cup of tea is today. We couldn't have what we have today without that then.
Right.
And some of that music was, some of it was awesome. I'm gonna say all of it, but definitely some of it was really good.
Yeah, and he does a pretty good job of hitting different pieces of it,
Yeah, especially the end credit song. Oh man, that just made you start hearing that song and you just want the movie to keep going. You don't want the movie to end. You hear that song and you're like, oh, there's more to this. There's got to be. They should have made a part 2. I think if part 2 would have ruined it. Would have been graduated, gone to college, all got real jobs wearing suits. They've been like, oh, this movie sucks. It's like watching American Graffiti 2 compared to American Graffiti 1. Nobody cares about American Graffiti 2. That movie was dumb.
No.
Yeah, it was whatever.
They were great. Well, we've got to get going, so.
Yeah, man, that was no worries. I'm
awesome,
glad that you guys decided to come on. The conversation was great. I feel like we're the same age and grew up in the same time frame.
Demographics.
So I appreciate you guys coming on. Like I said, if you have any other links, like to your YouTube, I think you sent me one of your YouTube channels.
Yeah.
If you send me both of them,
I'll send a link for Dan's as well.
And then
Dan's got a lot of videos.
Yeah, if you want to if you have a Facebook that you want to, have in the description, I can put that in there. So if anybody has questions for you or whatever, they don't want to watch your YouTube, they just want to hit you up on Facebook or whatever you want to send me, go for it. And I'll have it all in the description so people can look at more of your stuff and get a hold of you if they want or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. When I post something on Facebook, some guys like to private message me and ask a question.
Yeah.
And I just fire right back and let them know, hey, that's how I did this, or this is where I got this, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's
cool.
great.
Very cool.
Well, I'll sign off this episode, and then we can say our goodbyes once everything's done recording.
Okay, sounds great.
So, I hope you guys like this episode. If you're still watching or still listening, don't forget to, do your usual like and subscribe if you want. Go to that Patreon. That'll also be in the description if you choose to want to help this podcast out. But until next episode, you guys have a good night. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
So that was Mike. Wow, it's warm in here. That was Mike and Dan. And pretty cool guys. I mean, most of this conversation was about real cars and the culture, which I absolutely love. So I wasn't going to derail them and say, let's just stick to hobbies, because I love cars, especially at that time frame. So it's all relative in my book. I mean, why would we be building model cars if we didn't like cars? So it all fits. Really cool guys. I hope to talk to them and more, maybe see more, well, anything of Mike's layout, because we didn't get to see any of it, but you know, definitely do a follow-up video so we can see some stuff. And I think what I'll do, now that I'm thinking at the moment, I'll do maybe a little slideshow for anybody that's still listening. If they want to watch the few pictures that Mike's put online, I can show you his story pictures that he's done, because he's got some pretty cool stories. They're movie-based stories, with the Mills Diner and whatnot, but they're pretty cool. I like them, so I think you'll like them. But yeah, that was Mike and Dave, and I hope you guys liked it. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.